pride, envy, gluttony, sloth, wrath, greed, and lust. These are the famous 7 deadly sins, and I would be hard-pressed to name the last one I was guilty of. But tonight's heroine has found that for her, confession is good for the soul. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. She began the litany and prepared herself for what was to come. Having taken her position on the kneeler, which was shaped more like a chair with an angled headrest, and waiting for the partition to slide open from the other side, her heart pounded with anticipation. He entered from the other side. She could see his silhouette through the grill work, and began her recitation. It has been 2 weeks since my last confession, she intoned. Go on, my child, he said, with a calming voice which caused shivers to run down her spine. I have been very bad, Father. I've done some naughty things, and I am ashamed to tell you about them. Really bad things, in a soft, girlish voice. There, my child, all will be well, he assured her. Continue. Well, Father, I've done some naughty sexual things with boys and girls, she almost whispered. From the other side of the grill, she could hear interest in his voice. Sexual things, you say? How so? She knew she had him hooked. She continued, I was alone a couple of weeks ago because my husband was out of town on business. So I went out with the girls. They wanted to go to a male exotic review. I had never been to one, so I was kind of curious. We met at the club, and they had a table reserved near the stage, so we were very close to the dancers. We ordered some drinks and waited for the show to start. Oh, Father, I was so scared, but excited at the same time. I knew it was wrong to be looking at naked men, but I was with my friends, so it was just in fun, right, Father? A brief pause, and then, my child, there is nothing wrong with a little entertainment from time to time. Please, go on. Well, the music started and the lights went down. There was fog, and suddenly there were 8 of the most gorgeous men I have ever seen up on the stage. They were wearing tight pants and even tighter shirts, and 2 of them were right in front of our table. They changed places on the stage, and another 2 gyrated before us. My friends were cheering and pointing, and my best friend told me to wait until Thor got to our side. A few minutes later, he stood in front of us. My friend jumped to her feet, screaming his name. He waved to her like he knew her. Isn't that bad, Father? She could hear that his breathing had become labored as she told the story. My child, you are not responsible for the actions of your friend. What happened next? His voice betrayed his growing fascination with the tale. From his side of the partition, he could make out her mouth and shoulders, and mentally stopped himself from imagining more. The song ended and the guys came out for solo performances. They were all so gorgeous. The first one leaped up and squatted right in front of us, his skin shining and his muscles so defined. He had on a cap and he threw it into the crowd, and the women were screaming their approval. My friend had a handful of bills and went to the stage to stick one into his pants. I was so shocked because her hand disappeared inside his waistband, and I was sure she was going much further than was proper. I must admit I started to feel a little tingly myself. She heard the breathing on the other side of the wall become even more labored, so she went on without waiting to be coaxed. When the next dancer came out, my friend urged me to put $1 in his pants. I hesitated, and by the time he got to our side again, he was wearing nothing but the briefest thong covering his, you know. Her voice lowered to almost a whisper when she said, I approached the stage, and he stood in front of me, thrusting his powerful hips into the air. He sat down on the edge of the stage, and I hesitantly looked for a safe place to put my $1. He grabbed my hand and shoved it down the front of his briefs and held it there for a moment, then placed a quick kiss on my cheek. Forgive me, it felt good. I felt the heat of his thing and quickly pulled my hand back, but not before the jolt of electricity shot all the way down to my... down there. She smiled inwardly as she heard the rustle of fabric from the other side of the grill. Her confession was getting to him. She wanted to see just how far she could go. Forgive me, Father. I love my husband, but this was so strangely hot. I returned to my table and got more bills, waiting for the next dancer. With each performance, I got bolder and bolder, letting my hand linger as I placed a bill in the back of their tiny G-strings, accepting their kisses more and more while trying not to be obvious as I let my hand trail across the front of their pouches, feeling their stiff things. It made her feel more naughty saying that. And being so close, I could see the sweat drip off their hair and powerful chest. I was getting so hot. I know it was bad, Father, and I know it was wrong, but there's more. He was obviously losing his composure by this time, but managed to croak out a hoarse, Yes, my child, purge yourself of all your sins. She knew he could see her faintly, so as she continued, she unbuttoned her white blouse to tempt him further. Finally, Thor took the stage again. Every woman in the bar went wild. I rushed to the front of the stage to totally enjoy his show. He came out in an outfit that was so hot, I thought I would, well, right there on the spot. He went through his routine and ended up in front of me and my friend. She reached up and ran her hands along his powerful thighs as I focused on the bulge concealed inside his tight briefs. He seemed to be almost the size of my husband, which made me so excited I couldn't stand it. He bent to kiss my friend, and I quickly lifted my skirt and removed my panties, tucking them and a $20 bill in his tights, while I received a deep, penetrating kiss from this warrior god. The next thing I knew, security guards were there, pulling me off him and politely but firmly escorting me to my seat. I have never thought of another man since my wedding, but now I just wasn't myself. The show ended and I excused myself to go to the bathroom and try to compose myself. This tall, Amazonian woman came in shortly behind me as I was washing my face, trying to cool off. You like him, huh? I wasn't sure who she meant, and the puzzled look on my face made that plain. You like Henrik, huh? Want to meet him? I'm sure he would want to meet you. She took my hand, and in a daze, this attractive, commanding woman led me backstage to the dressing area. My heart was pounding at the prospect of meeting Thor, but this woman leading me by the hand was having a strange effect on me as well. I was slightly behind her as I was looking at her body and her tight slacks and halter top. Her skin was flawless, her body so well defined, and her bottom was so perfectly shaped. I began to feel self-conscious about my own. We walked through a large area where all the dancers were changing to go out and meet their fans. Some were not dressed yet, and I saw men of all shapes and sizes, totally naked. My knees shook and I stumbled a bit. Suddenly the woman was behind me, steadying me as my gaze shifted from one man to another. Her breath on my ear as she asked me, "Do you like them?" Felt so erotic. She didn't remove her arm from around my waist as she led me to a private dressing room. His. We entered without knocking. "Henrik, I brought you a gift," I heard her say. I saw him sitting there with my panties in his hand, and I blushed. He then stood up, and I saw that he was totally naked. I tried to turn my head, but the woman behind me gently turned me to face him as he stood there in all his glory. He smiled and said something, but my attention was drawn downward. On the stage, I thought he was not much bigger than my husband, but now I could see that he was not even fully excited and was already much larger. Standing there with a naked man in front of me and a sexy woman behind me pressing herself into my back, I was lost. I reached behind me tentatively and placed a hand on her thigh, feeling the powerful leg muscles beneath him. Thor began to approach me as I sank into her, feeling her body touching mine and feeling the heat rise within me. She stopped her confession for a moment. She could discern a rhythmic beat from the other side. She turned up the heat, knowing the effect it would have on her listener. Thor approached me, rapidly growing to a full, more than impressive size. I felt the woman's hands slide up my sides and around to caress me and slowly unbutton my blouse. I let her. She slid her hand under her own unbuttoned blouse, loudly enough to get his attention. She knew he could see her clearly enough to push him over the edge. Continuing, she said, "The woman pulled my blouse off my shoulders and released the clasps on my bra. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop it. I wanted it to happen." Inside the privacy of her booth, she removed her blouse and moaned so it could be heard through the grill. She saw his face press against the grill, but pretended she didn't as she acted out her seduction scene. The woman's hands caressed my bare skin as I pressed myself into her strong fingers. Thor knelt before me, raising my skirt, and his head disappeared from my view. I felt his fingers spreading me, and the touch of his tongue almost made me faint. The woman behind me let her halter top fall as she pressed her skin against mine. I was overcome with lust. I pulled her head to me as her lips brushed my neck and my ear. I felt her tongue on my neck and his tongue down there, and it felt like I was in heaven. "Do you think heaven will be like this, Father?" "Father?" she repeated. She knew she had won. She heard the rhythmic thumping speed up and pushed her story into overdrive. Thor's hands reached up and joined the woman's, caressing me and stroking me everywhere. The woman nibbled my ear as Thor's actions below pushed me over the edge, and I exploded, going limp and collapsing on the floor. "Father, I was so naughty." At that point, the door to her side of the booth flew open. She was there, kneeling, facing away from him. She looked back and smiled a seductive smile, knowing what was to come. He dropped his robe to the floor and advanced on her, flipping her plaid skirt above her waist and pushing the small strip of fabric to the side. He was so overcome with lust, he wasted no time entering her, finding her ready and willing. His powerful thrust elicited moans of pleasure from her and punctuated grunts from him. He took her, saying, "This is how naughty girls must be taught how to behave." He wrapped his arms around her torso, hugging her to him as her arm reached back to pull his head to hers. Her tongue searching for his and making contact, now enjoying being fully joined. She continued to urge him on in her little girlish voice. "Oh, please, Father, I really want to be a good girl. Show me the way." And at that, they both expended their pent-up pressures and came together. blending into what sounded like a chorus of voices. After a few moments, he stood, offering her his hand as if offering absolution. She took it and, discarding the rest of her clothes, joined him, totally nude, as they walked across the suite to the king-size bed that awaited them. After pouring themselves a glass of champagne, part of the naughty Catholic girl fantasy package, they lay down to cuddle in the afterglow of one of the best games they had ever played. She told him, "I was wondering what took you so long. I was almost out of ideas for the story." They shared a laugh. He got quiet for a moment, but asked, I was wondering just how much of that story might have been true?" She turned toward him and smiled. Reaching down between them, she began to caress him. And as he grew again to full strength, she looked in his eyes and said, "There was only one thing that was true, Thor, my love." I hope you enjoyed tonight's escapade. Please join me again for another exploration of the realm of darker desires.